Hello, my name is Stacy. Welcome to the Wild Yarrow Apothecaries podcast, where we focus mainly on herbalism, but we also talk about all things holistic health. So grab a cup of herbal tea and enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to this podcast episode where we're going to be talking about why are there so many conflicting thoughts when it comes to health. And before I really get into this episode, I want to give a disclaimer that I am not a medical professional. This is all for educational purposes, and I highly recommend that you do your own research. So, this is a question that I get asked often. Not like often, but often enough that I felt like that I should do a podcast episode on this. And later on, I'm going to be talking about something that happened to me yesterday that made me think, wow, maybe this is something that, I should do a podcast episode on. And I'll talk about that later. But um, let's get this episode started. Let's talk about this. So, have you ever been scrolling through like social media and one person is like, vegan diet, this is the only way to go? Or you'll hear someone else saying, no, it's the paleo diet. The paleo diet is the only way to go. Someone else is being like, no, it's the Mediterranean diet. If you do the Mediterranean diet, this is the healthiest diet on earth, and everybody is bickering and fighting over which diet is the best. And I've even have heard this in the herbal world where some people are like saying, medicinal mushrooms is the only way to go, or no, the medicinal mushrooms don't work, or this herb is the one that you have to do, or and then it's also like other holistic modalities, like you must do the cold plunge, or you have to do intermittent fasting, or you must do this detox. And you're like, okay. And then there's some people that are like, no, you shouldn't do detoxes, or no, you shouldn't do the cold plunge. And it's like, okay, who's right and who's wrong? I have my theories on this, but I want to talk about this first. Is when it comes to studies, I love science. I nerd out on science, and I do have mad respect for science, but at the same time, I do believe that you can go find two different studies that conflict with each other on almost every topic out there. And so, why is this? Why are there conflicting thoughts? Why are there conflicting studies out there? And like I said, mad respect for science, love nerding out on science. But I think a big problem with science always tries to put everybody into a neat little box. And the science is trying to make us one size fits all. But the problem is that we're not one size fits all. So all those people that are saying their way is the only way, I think they're both right and wrong. Because yeah, it might be the only way for them, but it might not be the only right way for me. Like it's going to be totally different for me or for you, or, and what's right for me might not necessarily be right for you because we're all very, very different. We have different genetics, we have different backgrounds, we have different lifestyles, we have been through different things growing up. Some people can handle stress better than other people. Um, we have different environments. Our environments can cause different issues. Like I said, we have different genetics, we have different ancestors. There's so many different things, and we're going to be talking about this throughout the whole episode here. But we're all very different, and not only are we all different, but we go through very different seasons in our life. Like, oh, I'm having a hard time with lately. I'm like, how many years ago was that? But I want to say about 8-ish years ago, give or take a year, I started the vegetarian diet. I started being a vegetarian, and I thrived on being vegetarian for 4 years. For 4 years, I felt amazing. I can't do that diet anymore. I can't be a vegetarian anymore. I no longer thrive on it. In my dream world, I would thrive on a plant base, or a Mediterranean diet, but I don't. Right now, at this particular point, I am thriving on the carnivore diet, and I think it has something to do with perimenopause. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But um, so not only are we different, but we go through different seasons in our lives. So it's a possibility that you may be thriving on something right now, but in a couple months, a year, 10 years from now, you might not be thriving on that anymore. And so it's all, it's different seasons. Let's talk about nutrition because this is where I see it the most. This is where I see the most of people bickering and fighting, and nutrition is a very personal thing, and I know this from experience, also just trying to build a business. I love being an herbalist. I love herbalism, but just like a hair more, I get into nutrition a little bit more. I actually went to school to become a nutritionist because nutrition fascinates me. I am very fascinated about nutrition. And so I went to school to become a holistic nutritionist, and I tried to build a nutrition business that flopped. It didn't go anywhere. And that is because I think people are always afraid that I'm going to take their favorite snacks away from them. I'm going to take their cookies, their chips, and I wouldn't do that. Well, maybe it would be a very, very slow process where we teach the body to do not want that anymore. But I'm digressing here. But when it comes to nutrition, I do believe that we're all different. There are a few things that I think that we all have in common. Like, I believe that we shouldn't be consuming food with pesticides on them, but unfortunately, a lot of people are eating foods with pesticides on them. And so I think that that's an issue. I think that overall, at least the average American, I don't know about other countries, but the average American is consuming way too much sugar and more sugar than they realize that they are. Um, what I really recommend that you do is the next time you go grocery shopping, look at the labels, even on foods that you wouldn't think would eat that would have sugar in them. Look at the labels, and I really don't care about like total sugars, but where it says added sugar, look at where it says added sugar, and you'll be surprised on what they're adding sugar to. It's really like surprising. You're like, dang, I didn't know the sugar would be and stuff like this. So sugar. They put sugar in almost everything. Corn syrup, is another form of sugar, but I really don't think that um, any, corn syrup and all of that, but toxic chemicals. Um, a lot of us should not be consuming, toxic chemicals. Actually, I said a lot. None of us. None of us, like toxic chemicals should not be in our food whatsoever. But past that, I believe that, if you thrive on being vegan, I think that's amazing. I do think that there are people that thrive on vegan. I think there are some people that thrive on, the raw diet, like the raw vegan diet, plant-based. Yes, I do think a whole foods or a Mediterranean diet is ideal. But right now, this season in my life, I'm not even thriving on the Mediterranean diet. I wish I could because, oh my gosh, that's delicious. The Mediterranean diet, the whole food diet, ooh, delicious. But unfortunately, I'm not thriving on that right now, and I wish I could. But there's so many people that can thrive on the Mediterranean diet. So it's more of I don't think that there is a particularly healthy diet. I think it's a what works best for you. And I used to always say that I'm on the Stacy diet because I used to be anti-fad, and I'm still somewhat anti-fad, but I do think that there are some fads out there that work for some people and not other people. And so right now, to my surprise, there is a fad that is working for my body. And I actually have to tell you that I I fought this idea for 2 years. For 2 years, my husband was talking about the carnivore diet. And I fought it. I'm like, hell no, how could that be healthy? Absolutely not. And then I did research one day, and to my surprise, it actually has a lot of benefits. And then what's even more surprising is I decided to try the carnivore diet and it worked. But do I think the carnivore diet, because it works for me, is going to necessarily work best for you? Nope. I think that we are all different. So I do think that the carnivore diet can benefit a lot of people, but not everybody. I think that there are some people out there that can try it and be like, nope, this is not for me. Um, do I wish that I could be on a different diet? Absolutely. But I sometimes get tired of eating just meat. And so I look for the day that I heal whatever needs to be healed, and that I can go to like either a whole foods diet or a Mediterranean diet. But I have a theory here. I have two theories, and I want to get more into this maybe next week. Maybe next week. I've been talking about maybe doing a carnivore perimenopause episode, and so I'll go way into more details on that. More than likely, I might do that next week. If not next week, for sure the following week. But I had this theory. Actually, I have a couple of theories. One, if you do your research, you're going to see that there are, and I highly recommend that you do your own research, not because I don't want to share the information with you. I love sharing information with people, but when I say do your own research, it's more of a, hey, if I don't think you should believe just anybody on a podcast on social media. Like I'm just this person talking on the internet. Back me up, You might be like, oh, I don't know if I should trust Stacy, which I get it. I get it. I'm just this girl on the podcast. So when I say do your own research, that means back me up, go see if what I'm saying, if you think is true or that you can relate to. So I highly recommend that you do your own research on this. Is there are more and more doctors out there that are talking about that cholesterol is actually really good for our body and that we need cholesterol. And part of why people are probably having so many like hormone issues and like Alzheimer's and dementia is because we're not getting enough cholesterol. And so I know that sounds like totally backwards to what we've been told. We've been told that we should avoid cholesterol like it's the plague, but more and more doctors are starting to discover that it might be the complete opposite, that we might need cholesterol. Now, I have a fellow herbalist that pointed out once that our bodies do produce its own cholesterol. But I have a theory on this, and I do think that there are exceptions to this theory. But while we're producing our own cholesterol, this is called endogenous cholesterol production. So endogenous cholesterol production means that yes, our bodies do produce its own cholesterol. But from my research, I believe that some people produce more endogenous cholesterol than other people. And another theory that I have on this, and like I said, I believe that there are exceptions on this, but I believe that people that like their ancestors came from colder climates, like my ancestors came from Northern Europe. They, because they like, especially in the winter time, they didn't have a lot of plant plants to eat, they probably ate a lot of meat, especially during the winter. So, especially during the winter, they probably ate a lot more meat than fruits and vegetables. And not only that, but it seems like the fruits and the vegetables that are like in the colder climates, you shouldn't consume a lot of, from my research, that they are fruits and vegetables that you should consume in smaller amounts. So this makes me think that okay. And just think about where you live right now. So even if like you live in the United States, really look into the wild fruits and vegetables that grow in your area. There is this fruits and vegetables like the wild, not the stuff that you'd find in the grocery store. You can't find wild broccoli. You can't find wild apples. At least I can't where I live in Northern California, wild oranges. But there are fruits and vegetables here, but you do not want to consume them in large amounts, and they're not the best tasting fruits and vegetables. So this makes me think that, people that lived in colder climates, they probably have a lower endogenous cholesterol production. Their body's probably um, producing less cholesterol because they ate more meat, to where people who their ancestors came from the equator, where there's a lot more vegetation, there's a lot more um, fruits and vegetables. Um, they probably didn't eat as much meat, so they probably have a much higher cholesterol production. Their bodies are probably producing more cholesterol, and so to me, it's again, it's like your ancestors. Who were your ancestors? And some people need more cholesterol than other people. And I know this sounds so weird because this goes against everything that we've been taught, but our bodies are a mystery. This shows us that we cannot be put in one little box. Um, and so there's nutrition. I want to talk about this too. So let's talk about anxiety and depression. I feel like this is another, way that we can look at, everybody is so different. A story that I have is almost 12 years ago. Almost 12 years ago, I had to make a lose-lose situation. Or I was in a lose-lose situation where I had to make a lose-lose decision. I had to make a lose-lose decision. And um, I know that I made the right decision, but it was heartbreaking. It was a very, very heartbreaking decision. That a lot of people don't realize how difficult it was. And I grieved. I went through a grieving stage to where I feel like a lot of people that went through the same situation that I went through, that they probably would develop depression. I didn't develop depression. I actually developed severe anxiety. Why is that? Why did I get anxiety instead of depression? I think that that's because our bodies are different. Our bodies are different. So to me, I think that anxiety and depression are almost caused by the same thing, but some people get depression, some people get anxieties. Why? Genetics, background, stress levels, how we think, how our beliefs are, our values, our morals, all of that comes to play, if that makes sense. And so, it's um this is why there's so many conflicting thoughts. All right, let me tell you what happened to me yesterday. This is going to sound kind of like a silly story, and I don't want to go into like a lot of details in this episode. If you guys want me to, I could try to go into another. Um, I could do another episode on this, but um, I have healed a lot in the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, I've done so much healing, but I'm still healing a little bit. I'm still having some health issues here and there that I'm trying to work out. And The more that I research, the more I think it has to do with the nervous system. And the nervous system can come into play with the temperature of the body. I know the thyroid does too, but my thyroid is super healthy. I've had it tested and my thyroid is fine, but I'm having this whole temperature issue in my body where I get cold really easily. So I get cold super easily, but also I'm not much of I don't sweat very much. And I know most people think that that's probably a good thing, but it's not. We've been taught that sweating is really, really bad. But it's important to sweat. Sweat is super healthy for us. And some of the health issues that I'm having, and they're mild, they're very mild health issues, but a couple of the mild health issues I'm having are leading me to the point to where it's like, oh, it's probably because I don't sweat as much as the average person does. How can I fix this? And I'm very active. I love to go for walks. I love to hike. Um, and I can't sit still. So normally I'm up and moving around. So and even in the summertime, I do sweat, just not a lot. So, anyways, I started thinking about this and I was thinking, you know what? I've been thinking about this for a while, and yesterday I decided, let's take the plunge. Let's get one of those cheapy saunas. And I did do a lot of research to where I decided to get a sauna that the fabric, the material in there is probably not the best, but I got the best that I can afford, if that makes sense. So I did some research on the material, so I shouldn't be breathing in too many toxic chemicals, maybe just a hair, but hopefully I'll be detoxing that through the sauna. But anyways, just in case anybody thinks like I do. But I started doing some research on the saunas and the true sauna, the true sauna is the dry sauna. It's the dry where it's putting off heat, but it's not putting off steam. Um, but a lot of us still call the steam sauna a sauna, but it's the steam room. But I'm gonna just call it the dry sauna and the steam sauna if just to make things easier. But I've done dry saunas before and I was miserable. I was miserable, and I'm going to tell you why in a moment. But I started doing some research yesterday, on the steam sauna, and I kept getting, I kept coming to people saying, no, you don't want to do the steam sauna because a dry sauna is so much more healthier. It's healthier. It's better for the cardiovascular system. Do the dry sauna because it's going to help your cardiovascular system so much more. But it's not my cardiovascular system that I'm really worried about at the moment. It's more that I want to sweat. I want to sweat. That is my goal is to sweat, but I run dry. I run really dry. My skin gets really dry. And I don't know if you're into Ayurveda, but if you're into Ayurveda, except for my weight, everything about me screams Vata. Everything screams Vata except for my weight. For my weight, I have a little bit of Kapha imbalance. But if you're not into Ayurveda, what that means is that Vata people run really dry and really cold, which I do. And so I am very, very um, Vata. The weight part is normally Vata people are very skinny, to where Kapha people are more curvy. And so I am not very skinny. Um, so, but yeah, so I run really dry. And so because of how dry I am, I'm afraid that even though all the health experts say that the dry sauna is so much more healthier than the steam sauna, I think that the dry sauna would do a lot of would be more harmful than good for me, to where I think that the sauna is going to be heaven. So, but maybe you are the opposite. Maybe you have really oily skin. Maybe if we're looking at Ayurveda, maybe you are very, very pitta and very kapha, to where you don't run really dry, to where a dry sauna would be very, very beneficial. But here, like, and this is what really made me think, man, I should do this episode, is because there are people out there that are like, you should, you have to do the dry sauna. Forget about the steam sauna. Forget about the steam sauna. And I'm like, but I think the steam sauna would be very, very beneficial for me. And this is something, a lot of research I did yesterday. And so just realize that when people say stuff like this, that they're trying to talk to a targeted people without even realizing that they're talking to targeted people. Um, yeah, and so I strongly believe that people don't realize that we're all very, very different. And if you ever listen to my TikTok videos, my Instagram videos, my podcasts, sometimes I think I do slip, but for the most part, I always say, like, it could, it should, it might, it's a possibility. And so I always try to use these, and it's also what I'm legally supposed to say. Legally, I'm not supposed to make promises. And I kind of like that, because the health isn't a promise, you know? Um, Is the carnivore diet going to be a promise? Am I always going to be on it? Probably not. Um, Probably not. And is the sauna, is that going to totally fix my health issues? I don't know, but it's something that really seems like it's going to, so I'm going to give it a try. But is your medication that you get when you go to the doctors, is it definitely going to be a medication that's going to help? Who knows? It might not, it might. How many times have you gone to the doctors and your doctor's like, okay, let's try this medication, and it might not work. And so they have to tweak it. Maybe they have to tweak the dosage. Maybe they have to be like, oh, this one's not working. Let's try this one instead. So nothing in health is ever concrete, even though I feel like a lot of these health experts try to make things concrete. Everybody, and you'll never hear me. Sometimes I get really excited and I'll talk about a herb and like, this herb is going to help with the nervous system. And then I'm like, oh, shoot, I shouldn't say that. Like, it probably is going to help with the nervous system. Um, and let's go into herbs. And I'll continue my rant after we talk about herbs, but herbs, this goes into herbs as well. If you go back into my episodes, you will see on April 18th, 2025, I did a episode all about energetics, which is exactly what we're going to be talking about here, but with herbs. Herbs, there's not a right herb for everybody. There are some people that thrive on some herbs, and some people that don't thrive on other herbs. And like, what I'm trying to say is, the herbs that might make me feel absolutely amazing might not make you feel absolutely amazing, and vice versa. And we all need different things. And this is where energetics come to play. So I have an episode all about energetics where I go way into more details. But what this means, and the best way that I can explain this, because I know that this sounds woo-woo. It's not woo-woo. This is not a woo-woo thing. This is very scientific thing. Um, this is science. This is science. And the best way that I like to explain this is, let's say you have a cayenne pepper. You touch the cayenne pepper, and the cayenne pepper is room temperature, but you bite into that cayenne pepper and whew, it's hot. It's hot, right? Woo. It's going to make you sweat. It is energetically hot. So herbs have this as well. Some herbs are energetically cooling, some are energetically warming, some are energetically drying. Actually, a lot of them are energetically drying. And then you have other ones that are energetically moistening. You have some that are going to be energetically relaxing and some that are going to be energetically constricting. And then relaxing can be used in two different ways. You can have some that are relaxing or some that are stimulating. So, this is really where we can look at a specific person and really be like, okay, and customize herbs to a person and be like, okay, and their symptoms, for me, because like I said, I run really cold. So I want to focus on herbs that are warming, because I run so cold. So I want to focus on herbs like ginger, turmeric, rosemary, sage, the really warming pungent. I run really dry. So I want to look really into herbs like marshmallow root, licorice root, um, burdock root, linden. All of these herbs have moistening properties in them that are not going to dry me out. Now, for symptoms, I would say a good 95% of the time, you're going to want to do opposites. So, like, the most popular thing that a lot of people will try to look into is coughs. If you have a cough, what kind of cough is it? Is it a dry cough or is it a wet cough? This is going to tell us what herb that we should do. If it's a dry cough, we're probably going to want to use a herb like mullein. If it's a wet cough, we're probably going to want to try herbs like elecampane, grandilia, wild cherry bark, herbs like that. Um, if you have, um, if you are someone who has a lot of anxiety, you're probably going to want to use herbs that are relaxing, like oat straw, passion flower, skullcap, um, linden, motherwort. If you have like depression, you're probably going to want more stimulating herbs like rhodiola, maybe ginseng, um, urethro. I think that's how you say it. So you don't want more of the stimulating herbs. But I still think for people with depression that they would probably do really well with like oat straw, linden, and lemon balm. But they'll want something to stimulate. Maybe even maca. Maca root would be really beneficial as well. So again, um, herbs are going to be energetic and I do think that a lot of people are going to benefit from medicinal mushrooms, but there are some people that may be allergic to medicinal mushrooms. So maybe that the people that are against medicinal mushrooms, maybe they're allergic to it and had a allergic reaction to it. So basically, the point of this story, I have several points to this episode, is that if something health-wise works for you, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for everybody, because we're all different. Um, so keep that in mind. Please keep that in mind. I think all health experts should be taught this, and it frustrates me. This is one of my biggest pet peeve is when I see something on social media where someone's like, this is it. This is gonna help this for sure. And I'm like, no, not for sure. Not for sure. We're all very, very different. So yeah, that might help a lot of people, but it's not necessarily is going to help with a lot of people. Unfortunately, our health is going to be is going it's going to be an experiment. It's a very, very big experiment, our health is. So, and I know that it's frustrating. Our bodies did not come with manuals. And so And I'm right there with you where I'm trying to figure my body out, to where it's like, okay, my body's doing this. What is this? And so it's like, ooh, let's try this. Oops, that didn't work. Let's try this. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try this. Ooh, that made it better, but it didn't completely fix the problem. Okay, we're going to still continue to do that that made it better, but let's try to add something else onto it to see if that will make it even better. And so a lot of it is going to be trial and error. And then on top of that, we have the healing crisis, which can make things worse before it gets better, which is really frustrating. Um, so like I said, just because something makes you feel absolutely better doesn't mean it's going to make everybody. And like I said, I wish our experts were advised on this because I see a lot of health experts saying, oh, you just do this and you'll be fine. No, because a lot of what these experts claim, that if you do this and it will work, I've tried those and it didn't work, on a lot of them. So there's that. And then just know that if you really, really look into science, you're going to find out that there's so much about the body that is still a mystery and that we're still trying to figure a lot of things out. You know, I've told this story before, but I'm going to say it again, because I love this story. So when I went to school, before I went to school, I thought that the body was this magical thing, especially the brain. I'm like, oh man. And then when I this like a week before I went to school, I was like so nervous. I'm like, I'm going to be taking anatomy and physiology classes, pathophysiology classes. I'm going to learn all of this science and that magic. I'm going to lose that magic because I'm going to really know how the body works. I'm going to really get to know the body, and that magic is going to be gone. Nope. And the more I learned about the body, it became more magical to me because I feel like there's still so much that we don't know why things in our body does what it does. Like, how do our cells know what to do in our body? Like, we got what, this is what the cells do. But how does it know how to do it? How does my heart know to beat by itself? And we do know that it has to do something, with the nervous system. But still, how? How is the brain? How am I having these thoughts? How am I able to move my hands? How? And I know that, science can explain some of it, but not all of it. But not all of it. There's still just so much unknown, when it comes to the body. And I think because we're all very different, in my opinion, we'll never know. I think we'll never completely understand how the body works, and we will never understand exactly what the bodies need because we're all very different. So I need to figure out, what works for my body. But when I'm working with the client, I know that works for my body is going to be completely different for what works for a their body. And a lot of times, I do have my foundation. So it's like, okay, let's look at nutrition. Let's look at mindset. Let's look at vitamins and minerals. Let's look into sleep. Let's look into hydration and exercise. So those are our foundations. But then once we figure all of the foundation parts down, then we have to tweak it, all of that to fit the client's needs. And it's going to be very different per client. There are some clients, when it comes to exercise, that some are going to be like, they're going to want to go to the gym and they're going to want to do weightlifting. And then some are like, no, I don't want to do that. Maybe some want to do running. They want to be a runner. Or maybe some are like, no, maybe you want to be like me and you want to go hiking. Hiking is my thing. Or some are like, no. And then there's that. And then the food, it's like, what diet works best for you? Is it vegan, the carnivore diet, the keto diet, paleo? Or is it going to be kind of a mixture of two? Um, Even though I'm on the carnivore diet, there's different levels of carnivore diet. I can't do eggs, I can't do dairy, so I don't do any of those. I also struggle with chicken. But um, it's all going to be very different. We need to um, tweak it to fit the client's need. Mindset. We've all have had different upbringings and different stress levels, and we've all had stress. Everybody, I want to stress that. I want to stress that we've all had stress because I think there are some people out there that think that there are people out there that are lucky and don't have stress. No, we all have stress. We all have it. But and then so like different stress levels, and so we have to tweak, different mindsets, different, meditations, different journaling, different, um, different thoughts, different perspectives on our mindsets. And then when some people run cold, some people run hot, some people run dry, some people run um, oily. Some people get anxiety, some people get depressions. And why is that? Some people get, oh my gosh, a big thing is autoimmune disorders. Well, why do some people get rheumatoid arthritis? Why are some getting lupus? Why are some getting fibromyalgia? Why are some getting rheumatoid or not? I already said rheumatoid arthritis. Hashimoto's. I do think I know part of the Hashimoto's, so I believe that it has something to do with vitamin and mineral deficiencies. But why is everybody getting very similar but still different health issues? So. And some of that could be, certain vitamin mineral deficiencies. Some can be different stress levels, but I just find it very fascinating that, you know, I feel like we're all similar. Oh, I can't speak today. We all have different similar bad habits, but we're all getting sick with slightly different things, if that makes sense. We all have, gut issues. Let's talk about gut issues really quick. So I have food sensitivities, but a lot of other people have food sensitivities too. But I feel like for a lot of people to have food sensitivities or gut issues, it causes like tummy aches, it causes constipation or diarrhea. Um, Stomach cramping. For me, it doesn't. I actually think I have a very strong stomach to where when I eat something that I shouldn't, um, I don't get the tummy aches. I don't get constipation. I don't get diarrhea. Instead, my skin flares up. Like I get like really bad, not acne, but it's either eczema or psoriasis. I'm not sure which one, but I get one or the other. And I get really congested, particularly in my right ear. It's so weird. But I get congested. And so I'm like, ooh, I know I shouldn't be eating that because my skin and my congestion. So why don't I get the stomach, issues, but I get the congestion and the skin issues? We're all different. We all have food sensitivities, but we're all gonna different symptoms. So the reason, and this is something that I will always say, the reason why there's so many conflicting thoughts when it comes to health is because we are all different and we can't be put in this neat little box. We're human, we're messy, we are unique. Could you imagine though if we were all the same? If we were all the same, it would be boring, even health issues, it'd be boring. So it's kind of one of those things, that I almost feel like our health issues though makes it to where we're taught to take care of ourselves. We're supposed to take care of ourselves, and we're actually taught the complete opposite. We're taught that um by society, we are taught that if we take care of ourselves, it's selfish, which I think is dumb. I think that's one of the most dumb things ever. Um, but our bodies teach us that we have to. Our bodies teach us that we have to take care of ourselves. And because we all have different health issues, it's all trial and error. It's an experiment, and it takes time. And it's as frustrating as it is, we need to figure out why our bodies are doing what it's doing, and all of that. So, anyways, I know I'm starting to ramble at the end here, so I think I'll end this episode now. But yeah, so the reason that why there's so many conflicting thoughts when it comes to health is because we're all different. So, yeah. All right. So I'm about to hop off this episode, and I am going to be recording our bonus podcast episode where I'm going to be talking about 8 health trends that I refuse to do. So if you want to come take a listen to these 8 health trends that I refuse to do, come join our Herb of the Month membership and let's nerd out on it. So, yeah. All right, guys, let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you all have a great day. All right, guys, bye. I hope you loved this episode. If you did, please make sure to follow Wild Yarrow Apothecaries podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave me a review. Do you want to hear more about this episode? Join our Herb of the Month membership, where I add a bonus part of this episode. In this membership, we also have a lot of PDF files, a lot of videos, and every 3 months that you are a member, I send you 3 herbs, and there's so many more benefits. Come check it out. Come nerd out with us. And thank you for listening to the Wild Yarrow Apothecaries podcast, and have a great day.